All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go over real quick the police body camera footage and why weren't police, when they did show up, why weren't they alerted by the other people? Hey, there's four of them dead. I believe if police would have known that there was people deceased in the house, murdered, I think they would have entered the house totally different and handled things totally different. But they were led to believe they were just there for somebody that was unresponsive from drinking or whatever. So let's take a look at this footage. Now, I posted a guy's uh, channel that we're going to watch. I subbed to his channel and watch his channel. So we're going to give him some promoting here. I posted it in my chat and description. So let's take a look at it. And I agree with a lot of people. I think the police could have handled it totally different. Had enough time to call police back and say, hey, entry, and they're deceased. But they didn't. This is very fishy.
If you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. Now, this is a long video, so I'm just going to be playing the most important segments. But this is the day after the Idaho student murders. This police officer does not know that he is preparing to walk into a murder scene.
Yep. Where's she at? Where's she at?
Yes.
You can already hear their voices wavering. And this means there's adrenaline pumping through their system. This means that they are anxious. Now, it doesn't seem that they fully understand what's going on. From my understanding, the police believed that someone was passed out at this point. So that's what he's responding to. As you can see right here, I want to show you what this student is doing when he gets in a little bit further.
Where at? Up here?
Up here. Okay. You got us all on that someone,
Something you may already be noticing, and I want you to look out for, is how tight everything in this house is. The stairway is small. Everything is very windy, which would have added to the chaotic nature of what was going on.
And I checked this YouTube video that she's, and I didn't check them yet, but
I'm 13. Okay, get back.
So as you can hear in the officer's voice, even just briefly, everything changed right there. You hear the tension in his voice almost immediately. Once adrenaline starts pumping, once the body starts tightening up, you are in protection mode, because this is not what he anticipated. And that's a big part of what we're going to be talking about today, is the expectations were defied. Nobody was going to expect what happened. Nobody is going to expect what they saw. So it's going to be very hard for people's brains to recognize and
All right. So let's take a look at this real quick. So this cop goes in, but this guy follows behind him. This guy is following the police officer into the house. But at this point, they don't know it's a murder. They think somebody's just unresponsive. So the cop says to the girls, where are they at? And they say upstairs or whatever. And this cop still don't know that these people have been killed. So he's entering the house, and the other police officers are entering the house like it's just somebody that's passed out from drinking too much or whatever, not answering their door. But police get there, and the door's already open. There's people in the house. This guy's following the cop and then he turns around and tells this guy, get out of the house. So very interesting. Which one's your guy, Debbie? Debbie says, that's my guy.
reconcile with what was actually going on and what actually happened. When they talked to one of the roommates later about what they recall, we're going to get much more into that. But now, I'm going to jump back. Let's listen to this police officer for a second.
don't know if they're still in here or not. Really, just wrapping them. They're like
1370.
And you could hear the student was speaking and the officer didn't even respond. He is now laser focused on what's happened. I'm just going to skip ahead because he's exploring the room and everything's redacted as it should be. Now, I mentioned I was going to point out what this student was doing. You see this position right here, hands over his head, elbows up. We do that when we're in a panicked mode because it forces us to breathe through our diaphragm. So if you try to do that and take a breath through your chest, you just can't do it. So it's not like you consciously think that you need to do this. Your body just automatically does it. But that's a way to try to force yourself to calm down a little bit. You oftentimes see people who have been in tragedies or who have been in some sort of catastrophe doing this exact thing. So this body stance does force you to breathe through your diaphragm.
I want to bring up Christopher Watts from the Watts case. Christopher Watts did the same thing. Put his hands on his head, swayed back and forth, and then breathed real heavy. Remember when he was in the next door neighbor's house watching himself on camera and he got real nervous? I do believe I seen him turn gray at that point. Chris Watts knew he was screwed. But this is different. This is a different circumstance. The cop goes in there. He thinks he's just going there to help somebody that's passed out, maybe drunk or whatever, unresponsive person. And it's a bloodbath. And you can hear him call on his radio. He turns around and tells that one dude, get out of the house. And then and that dude tries to talk to him, and that cop don't even hear him. He's already calling in a code. It's a murder. It's a murder scene. Or a suicide. He's already calling a code to dispatch, letting them know.
So we're going to be talking a lot about trauma in this video so you can better understand why these reactions are pretty much what you would expect.
Okay. Nobody's allowed to leave for now. Okay. Just stay here for me, please.
So you can hear the wavering in his voice, which is completely understandable because, once again, the amount of adrenaline pumping through your veins does not allow you to have an even, steady voice, particularly because he wasn't.
I agree with the good doctor, Dr. G. Debbie says, Miss Debbie Fox says she's been watching the good Dr. G for many years. I sub to his channel. I watch it too. But I'm sorry to say, we were onto this case before Dr. G. But now the police tells these people no one goes anywhere. Why? Because in this cop's head, he's got 4 people dead. And he's supposed to be there on a call that somebody's unresponsive from drinking. And they can't get into the room, and they're not answering and stuff. But the whole thing is totally opposite of what we are seeing once the police show up there. We see the police show up there and everything is open. All the doors are open. The bedroom doors are open. Who made entry? Why? Is very interesting. So this cop's doing the right thing. He's telling people there ain't nobody going nowhere. Because right now in his head, someone's lying. Someone ain't telling the truth.
Expecting it. If someone said you were getting ready to walk into a crime scene that looks like this, and he did, it would be totally different. It would be activating in that sense, but it would probably feel very, very different. The unexpected nature of what happened is such a big piece of the intensity of the trauma that occurs in an experience like this.
Can you guys go over to the dumpster for me, please?
You notice how slow everybody's walking? It's almost like being in a daze. When you dissociate, part of trauma is dissociation. So in other words, you are taking
There's that red Jeep. There's that red Jeep parked there.
A step out of reality a little bit. Sometimes time can get compressed, sometimes it can get elongated, but it affects your perception. And this happens with PTSD. It happens in short term if there's been a trauma. And all of these students are going through a trauma right now. They don't know what's happened. The unpredictable nature of what's going to happen next is also adding to that. So you have to understand, really making sense of trauma is understanding how unpredictability has completely thrown off their worldview. I do feel like watching this, seeing him put out the tape, this does ground us in the fact that this is very much real. This happened. This is not some abstract idea. This isn't a story. These were kids. These were real families that were affected by this tragedy. And it's just so, for me at least, it's very, very hard to watch this.
Okay, let's clear it. Thanks for...
And you look at the position of the student here, it's just absolute grief, just shutting down. You know, you put your head down, arms out, just essentially hiding from the world right then because it is so overwhelming. It's so overbearing. Once again, these are all things that we typically see when there are tragedies like this.
It's over here. Okay. I'm just right down here.
And you can hear the voice of the officer.
And let me point out, we also, what are we not seeing? We're not seeing any signs of forced entry. No broken door jams. We're not seeing none of that. So whoever did this, there was supposedly a key code on the front lock, on the front door. You know, I don't know. How would he get? I have no idea. Would someone leave a window open? I don't know. Did someone know there was always a window that they left open just in case somebody forgot their keys and somebody spoke to the wrong person and they revealed that, you know, there's a window that they leave open because they're always drunk or losing their keys and can't get in? Don't know. But why would all these women in a frat house leave any doors or any windows open at night? I have no idea. These people think it's back in the 50s or whatever, where you could fall asleep and leave your, you know, in one of these great neighborhoods where you can leave your windows and doors open and you're perfectly safe. Them days are long gone. Debbie Fox says, girls downstairs, let them in. Maybe. Very possible. But here's the thing. We're seeing videos and people saying that Ethan was castrated, that he was, that they carved into his legs. They decapitated him. Now, I don't know if that's true, but them are the rumors that are going around. If so, that's more of a woman thing. Castrating a man is more of a hate crime towards that man. Now, like I said, I don't know if that's true. This channel can't say that's true. If it is true, then that points more of some kind of a jealousy or something, or love triangle, whatever. Yeah. Or this could have been something that was done after the killer left. They had 8 hours. Could somebody have gone in there and make it look something like it wasn't? I don't know. Now, like I said, I have no idea if Ethan was castrated. If he was, then that points to other things. Maybe somebody did do something after the killer left. Who knows? We don't know. All right, let's keep just rumors, though. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You know, if it comes out, the autopsy comes out, and all this is true, he was castrated, then that takes time. And in order to do that, you would need time. You would have to know that there's no way no one's calling the police or no one's coming into that house or gonna call the police. That would take time to do, to write on stuff, to carve into bodies, to decapitate, castrate. That would all take time. That would all take time. And in order to do that, you would have to feel comfortable that you were safe. No one was going to call up the police on you. And that's what's freaky. That's what's really freaky about it. All right, let's continue. Miss Fox says, we really don't know what happened, but I believe those girls either knew he was in there or helped come on all those hours before. Yeah. 8 hours went by, maybe longer.
Whose body cam is on, you can hear his voice change. The adrenaline has settled down. He's trained for these kinds of things, but it was so unexpected. That's what caused that reaction.
Police department.
Police department.
So even as they're actively looking for somebody, this goes back into training mode. Immediately, I think that once the adrenaline settles down, once you know what you're dealing with, then it goes back to just following what you know how to do. And so all of the feelings probably get set aside right now. Now it's just in the mode of like, let me make sure that everybody's safe. Back into that sort of mindset.
Can you go see so you can track this?
Check with the prints.
One thing that's also striking is how normal everything looks. This looks like what house looks like after there's been a party. For anybody that partied in college, this should all look pretty standard. And that's part of what I also want you to keep in mind, because once we're getting to the interview with the room.
To me, it looks like two marks there on the wall. I don't know if that's blood or whatever, but it looks like two red spots right here on the wall coming out of Ethan's bedroom or where he was sleeping on the wall there. That's interesting too. And that's visible. Now, whether it's blood or not, I don't know. That would be as simple as them testing it with a cotton air swab or something and just taking a dab of it. But that's naked to the eye if that's blood.
Roommate, it's really going to sink in why they didn't call the police immediately, why there was so much confusion around this. Because once again, I don't find anything strange or out of place about any of this. This is pretty much how you would expect that a crime scene like this would look. And it's also pretty much how you would expect that people would react in a crime scene like this.
All right. I also want to point out what is open when the cop comes walking through the kitchen.
Strange or out of place about any of this. This is pretty much how you would expect that a crime scene like this would look. And it's also pretty much how you would expect that people would react in a crime scene like this.
All right. The cop's walking in. The door's already open. The back sliding glass door is already open before he even gets there. Very interesting.
You see how everybody's huddled together. Typically, when you see people, if they're not in an emergency situation, they'll be more spread out. They'll be more casual. We do this type of solidarity. We do this for protection. I don't think they're actively worried about anything happening, but everybody knows it's a crisis. Everybody is traumatized right now. So you are seeing people huddle together because of that reason.
Well, that could be because it's the middle of winter and they're all in shorts. Every single one of them's in shorts, it looks like. I imagine it's probably a little chilly there. They're huddled around trying to keep warm, but uh, all this is going on, and you're telling me these people ain't, my God Almighty, it's freezing on them. They're not putting clothes on to go outside to leave the house. They're walking around in flip flops and shorts. 8 hours has gone by. Very interesting.
Now you'll notice that this one student does not have her shoes or gloves on or anything, and it's probably quite cold. Because you tend to numb out during this. You just can't think straight. This is part of dissociation. You just lose contact with your sensations. You lose contact with time. All of these kinds of things impact how we sense the world.
Well, you're right, Miss Debbie Fox. Debbie Fox says, I shouldn't say they're kids. They were young adults. I can see if this was kids, right? They don't call the police. They're scared to death. If this was a kid, I can understand. He froze. But these are grown adults, teenagers, whatever you want to call them. They know dang well if there's an emergency, you call the police right away. And that's a very good point there, Ms. Fox.
In the main room.
This is one of the.
Pretty much they were in the main room. I heard the dancing and laughing. Okay, they went upstairs and she screamed because someone from the room. She ran downstairs. And I kept calling her name and she wouldn't answer. And then I saw the guy. And I flew out the door and I ran downstairs. We don't know what's going on.
So you see her almost bracing herself with her pants right now as she's talking about this. You hear the pressure in her voice.
Well, that's true, Dr. G. But I'm questioning if she knew all this, why didn't she let dispatch know? Why are we not hearing calls to dispatch? There's blood everywhere. Someone was murdered. Help. Help. Why aren't we hearing that? We're not hearing that yet. Now, whether they told dispatch that they knew all this was going on, we're not hearing it being related back to the officers when dispatch gets a hold of the officers to go there. There's no talk of blood, no talk of death.
She's probably making the connections with what she experienced the night before and what actually happened. It's probably all starting to feel a bit real. So there's a little bit of panic coming through as she's talking about this. You can hear how fast she's speaking. It's going to make an extremely intense emotion.
I also want to bring up was one of the girls as they're talking to dispatch. After one of the girls say, we don't know if she's what's going on. We can't get in the room. They're not answering their phone, and the door's locked. We can't get in. And then you hear one of the girls say, "Oh yeah, we saw somebody in our house last night." Very calm, very, just to throw in there. Oh yeah, well we saw someone in the house last night. No mention of there was someone in the house. There's blood all over. Send help. None of that. Nonchalantly saying, after she says all this, we can't get in the room. They're unresponsive. They're not answering their phone. One of the girls say, oh yeah, and we seen somebody in the house last night. And that's it.
Experience to try to piece all this stuff together.
Can you come here with me, please?
And you can hear the way that she's breathing. She's hyperventilating a little bit because the body takes in extra oxygen when we're starting to freak out a little bit so that we can protect ourselves, so that we can run, because the body runs on oxygen. So if you're over oxygenated, you have more energy. So sometimes we hyperventilate when we're freaking out for that very reason. So there's a reason that she's breathing so hard.
Well, that's also true. Miss Debbie Fox says also, don't forget his sister was into the making and filming horror movies, slasher stuff. That's true. She's a B actress or something in a movie or 2 movies or whatever. And so was one of the girls that lived there, Brandon or whatever her name was also into creepy stuff like that. Slasher, mask, crazy stuff, supposedly. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that was the rumors we heard in the beginning of the case. That she was also in the one that was always joking around or scaring people or whatever. Dylan or whatever her name was. So maybe that's true. I don't know. Did they know each other? I don't know. Did Brian Kohlberger use that to lure women or whatever? Oh, my sister's in the movie business and done this and that. We don't know.
Break Fire 3170. Could you guys grab some blankets for all these people out here?
Oh, okay.
You see how her hands are covered in front of herself, just trying to protect herself right now, emotionally, if nothing else, but just not knowing what's going on. That sense of confusion is going to make her feel like she needs to be protected.
Nope. Just come over here with me, please.
And I was trying to go to bed, and I heard Kaylee, who, ex-girlfriend, who has a dog in her.
Real fast. Which one is your room?
Kaylee.
Which one is your room?
Oh.
What room are you in?
So when they're asking her about factual things like which one room is hers, she's going to be more animated. That gets back into the intellectual part of the brain. Much easier to respond right now than the emotional part of the brain. So as she talks about emotions, it may be more fragmented. It may be more confused. But when he's asking her something like, which room is yours? Those will be much easier for her to access.
You were in that room?
My room, not Xana's room. My room.
And your room is this one right here?
Next to the stairs. That one is Xana's room.
Second floor room.
Second floor.
Okay.
All I heard was I heard go upstairs. Like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep now because she's going upstairs.
And you heard who go upstairs?
Kaylee and the dog Murphy.
And upstairs to the very top?
Yeah, that's where her room is.
All right. So we hear right there that Kaylee was there with downstairs with Murphy, the dog. And she says all she remembers is her saying that she was going to bed and her and the dog went upstairs.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden I heard walking up, I heard her.
You can hear people crying louder in the background. The reality of this is starting to settle in a little bit more. The dissociation may be lifting a little bit, but it's going to go in and out because that's just the way that trauma works.
Scream, and she ran upstairs because she saw someone. That's what I'm pretty sure she said. Someone's here, and she screamed and just ran downstairs. And I called for her name, but I jumped up and.
All right, this is key now. So we have Kaylee. She says all she remembered was Kaylee was going upstairs with the dog. She was going to bed. Then she hears someone screaming, there's someone in the house. Did it happen that fast? That's interesting.
Walked me to work because I was so scared. And then I heard someone in the bathroom and I heard her crying and I heard some guy say that you're going to be okay, I'm going to help you.
So if you're curious as to why you wouldn't call the police right away, I want you to think about.
Sir, Dr. G, if I might say, sir, if these were children, I could see them hearing this and not knowing what to do. But these are teenage women. When you hear some screaming and someone saying there's in the house and you hear all this, and then you hear some creepy dude saying, it's okay, I'm here to help you. And you hear people screaming, you know dang well, you call 911. I'm sorry, I can't. I can't understand how these are college women and they hear all this. And she's so scared she locks her door, but no one calls the police. Not one of them. If these were 10-year-old kids, if these were 8-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old kids, I can see them panicking. But now you can hear all this. You know something horrible is happening, and you don't call nobody. You don't run out the house for help. Nothing. You don't climb out a window screaming, help, help, something's nothing. Nothing.
If you went to college parties, if I went to UGA, I went to plenty. I'm very familiar with what the typical sort of response at college parties is. And if there was something crazy going on, if you were in your room, you might not think about it. There could be screaming and hollering and fighting. There's all sorts of things. You might come out and look, or you might not. The idea that they moved on after this may seem strange, but it truly isn't, because there's no part of any of their realities that would have thought my friends are going to get murdered tonight. That is just not how the human mind works when you're in a normal situation.
Dr. G, sir, I don't know about you, sir, but if I was sleeping in bed and my next door neighbor was yelling and screaming and it sounded like he was being murdered or something bad was going on, you bet your butt I'd be calling the police. Something's going on over there, screaming. Someone, it sounds like, is getting killed or something, a bad argument, get over there. How these people didn't, I don't understand. You're the psychologist, sir. You know more about this than me. I'm just a couch potato investigator. But if I heard someone screaming and someone screaming, there's someone in my apartment, and then I heard a bunch of screaming and yelling and screaming for their life, I probably would call police.
Let's keep going. I've got more to say on that, but I want to get to some other parts first.
And I kept calling her name, but she wasn't answering. And then I opened the door for a second, and I saw this guy, and he was not insanely tall, but he was wearing all black and like this mask, which is covering his forehead and his mouth. And I locked the door, and I called, and I didn't know what to do.
You see how she's moving her hand as she talks about this? This is tapping deeply into how she feels about this. It's almost like she's reenacting it. Obviously, she's reenacting it in her mind. Physically, we tend to reenact things a little bit as well.
At 4
a.m., yes. And so then I just ran down to
you left here?
I left my room down to room. She's that one with the white blinds at the very bottom. Okay. I ran down there and we talked, and we just locked the door. We didn't think anything up.
You see her, how she continues to talk with her.
So she runs to Dylan's room and they talk about it or whatever. Are you kidding me? Come on. You're calling these people. They're not answering their phone. You can't get in their rooms. You heard all this and you talk about it and then you go back to bed or whatever. I'm sorry for laughing, but once again, if this was children, I can see how this happened. These are college students, women, and they're calling everybody but the police. That is not right. I don't care what any doctor or professional says. That ain't right. That just is not right. Children, yes. Teenage college students, grown 21, whatever. No. 911 is the first thing you call. It just ain't adding up. I mean, to me, that it's just this is just you didn't call police. You called Susie down the road. Or, you called someone. You didn't call 911. Well, no, we just sat around talking about it, and you didn't think nothing of calling 911 or anything. You didn't go. You can't get a hold of people. They're not answering their door. All this happens, and you don't call 911. It's just crazy. But I guess if they were in shock, but how are they in shock when they don't know what happened? How do you get up? You go look and you see blood and you see stuff and you run back to a room and you talk about it with someone else and then you just go to bed for 8 hours. Come on. Miss Debbie Fox says she loves Dr. G, but I have been around tons of younger girls. My middle was a softball fast pitch. They are loud and crazy. They would have called the cops or ran out of yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's very crazy.
Hands. We do this when we really want to connect with somebody. She really wants the officer to know what she knows. She really wants to get her point across. So if you're wondering why she keeps opening up the blanket, keeps talking with her hands, that's a way that we communicate very effectively when we really want to be heard. So I can understand why she's doing that.
Of it, we're like, nothing happens in Moscow, so we just like try to go to bed, and then we woke up, and it was weird because none of our roommates were up, and we called all of them. They were not waking up.
Nothing happens in Moscow. That's one of the most important things that she's had to say in terms of understanding the trauma here.
What? Nothing happens in Moscow, so no need. I know it sounded like people were just bludgeoned to death in it, but they couldn't be. Not in Moscow. Well, keep thinking that, United States. It can never happen in your little town. Jeez Louise, what a mess. I feel bad for the police officers that showed up there thinking they were just calling or answering a call for someone unresponsive and drink too much.
This is not part of their reality. It's important to get this because when they see their friend laying on the ground, they were going to assume they're passed out drunk. When they hear people running around, they might just interpret it as people being crazy college students. The sounds they heard, the things they saw are not going to make sense to them in this context at this point, because that is just reality breaking for them. Because who would expect this, particularly a bunch of college students trying to have fun? This is no part of how they see the world.
It was weird because none of our roommates were up, and we called all of them. They were not waking up, and so me and like, this is weird. So I called and come over.
Well, if Dylan was always a jokester and playing jokes on people and scaring people, maybe they thought it was just her playing games. But then you have to think, little lady, you're in her room with her. So it ain't Dylan. Or was it? I'm not sure. Let's get back to that. Miss Fox says, I will never believe this. And then she says, I feel like that was rehearsed all night. Well, they had 8 hours. Maybe it's very well possible that her and the other one that survived were up. I didn't hear nothing. Did you? I didn't see nothing. Did you? I seen somebody, but it was a black silhouette of a guy with a mask and tall, but I didn't see any. It was just crazy. Someone was screaming in the house. There's someone in the house. Then I hear, I was watching a channel earlier today. Miss J, and she was showing ductwork that was all on the bottom floor, leading right to both of them girls' bedrooms. So is it possible they heard more than what they know through the ducts? Because we all know sound travels in these tin ducts. They're like a tin can. It echoes. So did they know exactly what was going on? I don't know.
And then that's when all this happened.
Here. Who all lives here?
And then there's Maddie, Mogan, and Kaylee up top. I don't know where they're at now.
Maddie.
Mogan.
So they don't even know where two of them are right now. They are not fully aware of the scope of this tragedy.
All right, describe the guy that you saw.
I don't think he was a little bit taller than me. And I couldn't really see much of him, but I'm almost positive he was wearing a full black outfit. And he had this mask that was just over his forehead and over his mouth, and he didn't say anything to me, like, at all. I just shut the door and locked it.
That sounds like a ski mask or a tactical mask that this gentleman, whoever she's seen, had on. Probably a ski mask or something similar. Debbie Fox says, I walked in on my grandpa after 6 hours and it smelled like my grandpa's house. What? I walked in on my grandpa after 6 hours. That smell never left. Oh, yeah. Yeah. 4 lives violated, taken. Yeah. 8 hours go by. The bodies are sitting there bleeding out. Yeah. Well, very interesting, very crazy. How, why, I don't know. I can see them being scared. I can see that. They both had access to windows to jump out the windows. If they can hear something going on upstairs, why didn't they boot scoot boogie out of there? Why didn't they call the police? Whatever. If they're that scared, they're locking the doors. They see someone in the house. They just don't. I don't know. Let's watch a little more.
Because I didn't know what to do. And I think he went out like the side door, the sliding door in the kitchen that goes out to the backyard.
Okay.
And then
See, there are a lot of details that she saw, that she connected with, but she just didn't make the association with how dangerous the situation was.
I didn't know anything else, so I called and I was like, I just need to come downstairs and find you because I don't know where anyone else is. And I called Maddie, I called Dana, I called Kaylee, no one would answer.
You first noticed a guy.
Well, I first noticed Kaylee go upstairs and scream and run downstairs.
So 4 this morning, went upstairs
Yeah.
to the way top.
Yes, to her room with Murphy, the dog.
Okay.
And then
And you heard Kaylee scream.
I heard her scream and run as fast as she could downstairs. And she said, someone's here.
She ran downstairs.
Yes, I could hear, you can hear everything. I heard her run downstairs really fast. And I remember her sobbing. And I just remember hearing this guy's voice, and I didn't recognize saying, you're going to be okay, I'm going to help you. But it wasn't like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it wasn't in like a nice way. It was like a weird way.
So the weird tone she's talking about.
Yeah, this is all crazy. Miss Debbie Fox says, let's not forget how all the locks were changed. Well, we don't know if they were changed or worked on. We know in the beginning of this case, one of the girl's parents went there to go work on a lock or change a lock or whatever on that house. Whether it was a bedroom lock to fix it or change it, we're not sure. We're not sure. We know this much. Somehow he got into the house, whether it was he came in through the front door, he climbed up the ladder onto the roof. We don't know. We weren't there. We don't know. Now, in the beginning of this case, there was drone footage of the roof. what appeared to be blood on the roof of the house. The second story, there also was a ladder placed up against the house. So we don't know how he got in. Now, does it make sense he left out the sliding screen door? Well, if he was parked back there in one of the apartments, yeah. Makes sense to me. I mean, I don't think he pulled right up in the front, parked, got out, did it, and then left out the, he definitely walked in.
When somebody says, I'm going to help you, when obviously that's not their intent, we can pick up on those kinds of things really well. The one thing that we're really good at doing is identifying when something doesn't seem authentic. Human beings are very, very good at that. So when he was trying to manipulate his victims, saying this, I suppose, to try to lull in some sort of false sense of security, it would have sounded weird. It would have sounded chilling. It would have been a very strange quality to it, I'm sure. And that's exactly what she's referencing right now.
Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it wasn't in like a nice way. It was like a weird way, like a weird tone.
You're gonna be okay.
And you see how she's playing with her hands right now. Even recalling that tone is making her more and more uncomfortable, understandably.
I'm gonna help you.
Yeah.
And you didn't hear anything from Kaylee anymore at that
No,
point?
after that, I didn't hear anything. So then I kept calling her name. I called on my phone. I called Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee. None of them answered. So then I opened up the door to look, and that's when I saw the guy pass by. He looked at me, but he didn't come towards me or say anything, which was really confusing to me. I don't understand that. And I'm pretty sure he went out the side door. And then I called, and I didn't think anything about fire or firework
Or
until
gunshot
I told her.
or
I don't
anything?
think I heard anything of that, but I also was kind of in and out of it because I was just scared and I was really tired.
Kaylee anymore at that
No,
point?
after that, I didn't hear anything. So then I kept calling her name. I called on my phone. I called Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee. None of them answered. So then I opened up the door to look, and that's when I saw the guy pass by. He looked at me, but he didn't come towards me or say anything, which was really confusing to me. I don't understand that. And I'm pretty sure he went out the side door. And then I called.
This is crazy. So where is she when she sees this guy? Because she's telling the police officer her bedroom is on the bottom floor by Dylan's room or whatever. But yet she says after she can't hear anybody else, she's calling, she can't get a hold of anybody. They're not answering. She's not hearing no one talk anymore in the house. She opens up the door and there's a guy passing her. And he looks right at her, but keeps going. Now, where is she when she sees this guy? Because she's already told the police officer that her bedroom is right there. She points to it on the first floor. She was in her bedroom. That means Kohlberger, or whoever this was downstairs, unless she went upstairs into another room with someone else and then opened the door and seen Kohlberger walking out the back door, the sliding glass doors. Interesting. Debbie Fox says, so the family gets around to changing the locks and this happens. What the F? Yeah, that's kind of weird.
And I didn't think anything about fire or firework
Or
until I
gunshot
told her.
or
I don't
anything?
think I heard anything of that, but I also was kind of in and out of it because I was just scared and I was really tired. And that's when I called and I told her, I need to come to your room because she was the only one that was answering me. So I just ran down there, and for a second I stopped and I saw Xana passed out, and I thought maybe she was just like sleeping or something. I didn't think anything because I was so out of it. And I went into the room and we just fell asleep. And then we woke up this morning and no one was waking up at all. Like no one was answering, which was really weird because all of us wake up around like 9 or 10. And then I called
And there she was talking about how weird it was. It would have been scary, and maybe there's a little part of her that would have started to feel a little bit of panic at that time, but it wouldn't have really crossed her mind, I don't think, until it all started coming together as to what actually happened. So
This is crazy. So she hears all this, and after a while, she goes out of whatever room she is upstairs in and goes back down to her bedroom. This is interesting. And the guy looks right at her, and he just continues on his way. And she says, it's kind of weird because he walked past and looked right at me, but didn't come after me or anything. He just kept going. Well, by then, everybody has seen him, and the whole neighborhood knows what's going on. And this guy's walking through the house. Not one person calls the police. Now, I'm interested to see exactly what happened, if we'll ever find out the truth. If it was as bad as what we were hearing from a couple of these creators, that would take time to do. And you would have to do that reassured that nobody is going to call the police or go and get help. And that is fishy to me, because do I think whoever did this went there and was doing this whole thing? I don't, anybody in their right mind would have went in, did the job, and got out of there with at least evidence of you being there. Now, you taking time to carve on bodies and do sick stuff or write on stuff and all that takes time. And you would need a lookout. You would need cover, reinsurance that nobody's going to come there. And that's crazy to me. It's just crazy. Debbie Fox, as a normal female woman, would have went crazy with call everyone on that phone instead of playing on apps. I don't know. You would think any young woman or whatever would call the police. After, especially, you're looking around and you walk past one of your girlfriends on the ground, not answering you, not nothing. You walk right past her and you see her on the ground. I thought she was passed out on the ground. No one was, how do you not call the authorities? I don't understand.
even in those moments, even in those early morning moments, she's not going to have pieced everything together.
I don't really know what he looked like because he had a mask, but he wasn't like super tall.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'10". I think it was maybe my height, an inch or two higher or lower. I can't really remember.
So about 6 foot.
I think so. Around there.
How was he built? Fat, skinny, stocky?
More like skinny, but like basketball player kind of skinny. Like not too skinny, but like almost fit skinny in a way. That's what.
She's very detail oriented and she's very good at this. Some people, when they go through this kind of trauma, cannot recall details, and that plays against them because people go, well, why can't you remember? You should remember this accurately. But because of the way that trauma works, sometimes memory can become very fragmented. So I give her a lot of credit for being able to recall the level of detail that she does. And some people are like that. Some people are better with details than others, but it really is fortunate that she was able to get through all this. I'm going to show one last bit. I'm just going to show a little bit of the police officer recounting what he was told by the roommate, because she did such an incredible job of describing what happened. Despite all of the trauma and confusion and everything else that had gone on, I think that she created a very compelling and important, and it sounds like very accurate narrative of what went on that night.
She saw a guy masked, about 6 foot, skinny build like a basketball player, she described. Said that he had a just full black mask, see, like a ski mask. What time? At about 4. Immediately after, she yelled and said, "There's someone in the house." This girl ran, locked herself in her room. Could hear a roommate that was upstairs, Kaylee. Somehow she was able to discern that it was Kaylee screaming. Then she could hear this masked man saying,
All right, we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. Hopefully this is helping you better understand some of what we saw on the body cam today. What I really want you to take.
All right. So now we know she's the one that screamed, there's someone in the house. So she went from Kaylee was saying, Kaylee was downstairs and she was with the dog. And the last thing she remembers, Kaylee said she was going to bed. Her and the dog left the room. And then she heard somebody scream, there's somebody in the house. And then she heard screams from Kaylee or one of the girls. So it happened that fast. Was Kaylee, was he waiting upstairs? I don't know. Was he, did he, I don't know. This is crazy. If you ask me, it's crazy. I don't know how these young ladies didn't call the police right off the bat. As soon as you hear all this stuff and you know something bad's happening and you walk out of your one room to go back to your bedroom and there's your girlfriend on the floor passed out, or you thought she was passed out. I don't know. Let me see what Debbie says. Explain this to me. Johnny, did you know there were drawings of bushy eyebrows found on the walls? That's what they were saying, something like that. But I think it was hair. I think it was like hair, like they either banged their head up against the thing or something, and it was impressions or hair, bloody hair, and it stuck to the table or whatever. But I did see that, Debbie, how there was eyebrows and a smiley face and stuff like that. It was crazy. See, stuff like that takes time. It takes time to do all that stuff. You don't go in there to do something. It's very possible someone went into the murders and then after they found out, people did something and made it look like it, and cleaned up. Maybe. I'm not going to say it's not possible. Debbie says they were drawings. Oh, that's crazy.
Take away from this is the profound impact of trauma, and to understand everybody's going to experience trauma differently. What happened was wildly unexpected, as it would be for anybody. But these college students are not going to be able to process this easily. The most important thing they can do is to talk about it when they feel sad about it, when things come up about it, when they feel scared about it, to talk to somebody, whether it's a professional, a friend, a family member, anybody who can listen, anybody who you trust.
Good Dr. G. Yeah, they wanted to talk about it to everyone else, but the police, they didn't want to call the police. They wanted to all huddle around and talk about, what did you hear and see? I think I heard somebody being killed. Oh, are you kidding me? No, that's what it sounded like. Something bad happened. No one's answering the phone. No one's answering when we go to the doors. No, I would think something bad probably happened. But then again, people are saying, well, there was a party the night before. They were all drinking, drunk. They woke up to this and the shock of it. I don't know about you folks. But if I woke up and seen someone I was living with or knew or whatever laying on the floor, and remnants of blood and something very bad, I don't care how shocked I am, you're going to call 911. Somewhere within a few minutes, right? Oh my God, what the F? And you call 911. Shocking, yeah. You leave the house, yeah. You do whatever, but you're definitely on the phone went 911. 8 hours afterwards, I don't know. That's very fishy to me. These women, I don't know what they were going to school to be. Rocket scientists, I'm not sure, but something like this. You don't call your friends, come over to the house, something's, we think someone's dead or whatever. Not one of their friends said, call, hang up, and call 911 right now. Not one of them. Not one of them told these people, not one of the people they called 911. What? This is crazy. Yes, Debbie says 100%, Johnny. There was drawings. Well, see, that takes time, Debbie. If you did 4 murders and there's more people in the house, are you going to take time to draw bushy eyebrows and blood and faces and write in blood? This is like a Manson thing. And how did the Mansons get away with that? Well, because back then they didn't have cell phones. And they killed people before they got to the phone. There was only so many people in the house. They went in and killed them right away. They had time to write on the walls, bloody pigs and all that, because everyone in the house was dead. And nobody was around. Where they lived, it was a private offset place. They had time. You got people still in the house that's seen you walking through the house, and you're going to sit there and do all this sick stuff, writing without worrying about police or someone else showing up. That just don't make sense, Debbie. Can you explain that to me? Does it make sense to you? Debbie Fox says supposedly the roommates downstairs, after she and him, whatever, in between that 8 hours, she drew pictures of his eyebrows and put him on her wall. What? Now that's sick. That's crazy. Pictures of what? You mean she was were these pictures in blood, or were they just photos? Excuse me. I can't. That's a little hard to find. Are you kidding me? I mean, this stuff takes. How do you do? I don't know. Could these things have happened after the killer left? Maybe. It's possible someone made it look different than what it was. Yeah, it's possible with 8 hours that went by. No. That's just crazy. Look at this cop looking. Look at this cop with the glasses on and everything. Look at him. Are you effing kidding me? Some guy all dressed in black, ski mask. We're supposed to be here on a call for somebody that's drunk. Yeah, look at these cops. They're shocked. I would be too. That's a serious look on this cop's face. The F you talking about? You know, we're here to help somebody that's drunk, not answering the door or whatever. Man, this is, yeah. Pretty crazy if you ask me. What do you think, Miss Fox? I think the same. It's just the whole world's gone crazy. You'll try and find them videos. she was drawing all kinds of stuff and had them on her wall. Oh, them were photos of people's faces and eyebrows, but I don't know. You think they would write, you know, do you think they would be doing this stuff after the murders? And these women would have to be crazy, psychologically mad if after the killer does this, they're in there with finger painting and writing in blood with their fingers and all kind. That would have to be crazy. I heard one of the girls, Anasaz, was really mad at one of them. What? Wow. Maybe. Well, now they're saying, I watched a video today and the video I did earlier, Debbie, and the one guy was saying that supposedly Ethan was castrated and beheaded and carvings were in his body. Well, that would take time. I don't know. And then there's the photo at the crime scene of a knife that was on the counter that the police photographed. So is it true there was maybe possibly two knives? Maybe. It's possible. Right? The killer leaves. And then these sick, twisted people that lived in this house come out and do this thing with another knife. I mean, did the police photograph that knife because it had something similar, something we don't know. We don't know. Debbie Fox says, here's a crazy thought. You know how Brian and his sister are like twins. What if the other girl was friends with that fraternity? You mean family? Or you mean frat? Oh, you mean like Sigma Delta High, or you mean family? You spelt it FRATERMITY. I think you meant family. Maybe they were friends. It's very well possible. Anything's possible. Oh my God, what if Debbie Fox is saying, what if Brian's sister did it? And then Brian got, now, I don't think she would be strong enough. I don't think she would be strong enough to take on Ethan. But they're saying Ethan was in his sleep. That he was sleeping or in the bed. Right? He would have, surely, but she might have had a night. Maybe it's a brother-sister team. Two of them go in. I don't know, maybe. I'm not going to say it's not possible. I'm not going to say it's not possible. Look at this beautiful sky we're getting, Debbie. Look at how beautiful that is out there. It's really dark out, but this camera is picking up light. It's really getting kind of dark out, but in this video, the camera is picking up the light. It looks beautiful out there. I don't know what time it is. It's 6:30 at night. And the sun it's still out there shining. I don't know. Did we flip time now? Now days are getting longer. I don't know. Oh, you mean the sister belonged to one of the oh, okay. Frat sisters. Oh, maybe. It's pretty crazy if you ask me, Debbie. But you have some good points there. Now, whether that's true, what we've been hearing, Debbie, I don't know. This channel cannot say it without 100% proof. We can give our speculations, our theories, our scenarios. That's about it. Let me see. Debbie Fox says, She looks exactly like her brother. Like exactly. So if she had a mask on, her elbows would look the same and everything. Maybe brother and sister team. I don't know. There'd have to be more evidence of that, but I'm sure they would have tracked her phone. Was her phone around there? I'm sure they would have seen if she was in town. Uh, no, it's possible though. It's possible. A lot of people were saying father son team. Two people there. I don't know. Maybe she knew the brother was nuts, so she framed him. Well, that happens a lot. It happens a lot more than people would know. Happens that much. Yeah. The idiots always get blamed first. All right. I can't believe that this camera is picking up that kind of light uh, but it's a beautiful view out there. They never got the DNA except the knife sheath. That's another thing. You know, if Kohlberger would have wore that sheath on his belt like it was supposed to be, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't be here today. They would have had no DNA other than what was on the sheath. Would we be here today if he would have wore that sheath how it was supposed to be on his belt, where it was not going to come off? He wouldn't be able to drop it anywhere or anything. Would we be here today, this far into the case? I don't think so. I'm not sure. Not unless they really did their investigation and found out, well, there was someone on campus that was in trouble a lot, and a lot of calls coming in of crazy stalking stuff. Then it might have led back to Kohlberger. But with evidence, if the sheath wasn't there, we probably wouldn't be here today. All right, I think we're going to end this video. I want to thank Debbie Fox for showing up. Some great questions. Everyone, lock your doors, your windows. Stay warm. We got cold temps coming and more snow. And we'll be back with more info on the Idaho 4 case. A lot of questions need to be gone through. Did he get sloppy? Did he kill Befor? And this, he got sloppy and forgot the sheath. Don't know. We'll find out. You folks have a good night. God bless. I'll be back.